time of savagery and bloodshed has come upon the mortal realms. An age of red-toothed fury beholden to no laws but those of the merciless wild. The era of the beast. The immense predator mound known as the Beastgrave has been shattered, pulled apart by god-summoned magics, its demise surely hastened by the warring factions fighting their bloody skirmishes within its rocky innards. Many of these warbands perish along with their prison, but others yet endure. The bloody struggle for survival and dominance goes on. In its death throes, the great edifice revealed ancient tunnels long forgotten, realm-spanning passageways that allowed a fortunate few to escape the cataclysmic death of the Beastgrave, and enter a new and equally fearsome environment, the Tungle Underworlds that run far beneath the ravenous forest known as Gnarlwood. These labyrinthine root holes, fashioned from the gargan-sized roots of carnivorous trees, are home to all manner of flesh-eating beasts, gibbering monsters, slithering pools of fetid swamp water, while serpentine horrors wind their way through the undergrowth towards their unsuspecting prey. Even the flora here is more beast than plant. The relentless ferocity of Gur twists every living entity into a carnivorous monster, possessed of no desire beyond the need to rip and tear its victims to shreds. And yet, even in this nightmarish living labyrinth, there are incredible secrets to uncover. The shattered halls of a starborn vessel, filled with cosmic secrets beyond imagining and relics of long-lost civilizations, buried for centuries in mud and blood. Such wonders might transform a warrior into a living legend, or forever change the balance of the great wars that ravage the mortal realms. Yet laying claim to them will be no simple task, for the Gnarlwood does not gladly give up its secrets, and the winding tunnels of its root halls are home to the mouldering bones of 1,000 doomed adventurers. So, welcome to the Critical Focus channel and this walkthrough of the rules changes in Gnarlwood. So, Gnarlwood is here, and we have moved on from the watery trenches of Harrowdeep and Nethermaze into Thondia. Gnarlwood lies in the western Thondia, a megacontinent of Gur known for its immense predators and primordial landscapes. So Gnarlwood was already hinted to be maybe this season because of the previous installment of Warcry, right? Which has this beautiful terrain of the carnivorous trees and stuff like that. And I guess you could use some of that terrain to work as terrain for your Underworlds games. It's a really flat game, so if you want to liven it up with maybe use something as block text or something like that, that could work as well. So I'm not going to talk so much more about the lore here, although there are plenty of beautiful art and good lore texts here. So I'm just going to delve into the rules changes, right? So they seem to have separated between standard play and advanced play, or standard rules and advanced rules, and most of the people will probably use the advanced rules because playing with the standard rules seems really, really dull. I don't think you even inspire fighters, if I read it correctly, so I guess you just kill things and score objectives. Let's just pretend that everyone's playing the advanced rules, because that's what we're here for, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So the first change here is to beasts and large fighters. And this change is, it's not huge, but I think it's a good change. So if a fighter becomes a beast during a game, you break each of their upgrades that cannot be given to a beast. So for example, attack action upgrades. So, but stuff like +1 wound, +1 damage won't be affected by this, but some upgrades will be. And also, while large is not a trait, it works in a similar way to traits. While a fighter has a wound characteristic of 5, you're large, that's the same as it was in Nethermaze. And large also means that you are worth 2 glory, right? If a fighter becomes large during a battle, break each of their upgrades that cannot be given to a large fighter. That's pretty interesting, right? So we have this, I think it's a destruction upgrade, if I'm not mistaken, that you can only give to a fighter with 4 wounds or less, and it means that each time you are given an upgrade, you heal for 1. So that won't work if you wounds upgrade the fighter to not being 4 wounds anymore, but but rather 5 or more. So I think this is it's not a huge significant change, but it's just a fix to game work as intended, right? So you don't cheese combo in things that's not supposed to be there. Let's skip ahead. So a big change here is that we have completely changed how placing the feature tokens work, or not completely changed, we rather went back to how it worked from the get-go, I guess, with some twists. But now we only place the objective tokens during deployment. They are still cover hex on the flip side, but we place them objective side up, and we do have 2 additional feature tokens that are Gloom on one side and Snare Hex on the other side. But those are not placed during deployment. So we only place 5 objectives, and they are placed in the same way as before. The player who picked the first board placed 3, and the other 1, 2. And the other one are kind of left in this available pile. So, as I said, the 2 Gloom tokens that are Snare Hex on the other side. Snare Hex means that if you're moved into it, or pushed, or was placed in the Snare Hex, you are staggered. And as you may or may not know, stagger means that your opponent will get a reroll versus you if they attack you. But you don't get additional Snare Hexes if you move into another Snare Hex. You can only just have 1, just like a guard token. So that's a huge change, right? So now teams that benefit from searching for standing on objectives or something like the Ravagers can be playable again. It is a nerf to some warbands relying on Gloom, like the Cannon Crew, and especially like the Shadeborn, I think. So those will struggle a bit, but they are not unplayable, because there are still cover hexes. And they have the tokens, for example, the Shadeborn, and they're also printed cover hexes on all of the boards, included in this installment of Warhammer Underworlds. So it's not a huge deal to them, it's just a small nerf, but it's bigger revenge, I would say, for the old warbands that get pretty much destroyed with the Mason Harrow Deep upgrades. So I think this is a welcome change. And then there are some ways that you could place the 2 remaining feature tokens onto the battlefield. And then in the draw cards selection, there's nothing new. Place fighters, nothing new. Let's see here. Move actions is a big change. So now you can move a fighter several times during the round. You could move one fighter 4 times. The caveat, though, is that once you have moved, you can't charge. Unless you're Moloch, I guess. A fighter with 1 or more move tokens cannot make a charge action. So this means that if you walk onto an objective that you're intending to hold, maybe the duration of the round, and you get pushed off by some nasty push card, you can just leisurely stroll onto that objective token again, as long as you have an activation left. I like this change. I don't really mind it, especially given that you can't charge if you moved. I think it means that people still will want to charge a lot, so I don't think it's maybe as huge as we make it out to be, I guess. Next big thing, right? So when you take a fight out of action, you have a reaction to make, a universal reaction. Any player can use this following reaction: Plunder. Use this during a friendly fight's attack action that takes the target out of action after the out of action check. Place 1 available feature token in the hex the target was in with the objective token face up. That is pretty interesting. So if you are playing like a warband that wants to remove the objective tokens for some reason, and you need to hold stuff, you can still get them back on. Do note, though, you can only place a feature token with the objective token face up. So the 2 Snare/Gloom tokens available at the start of the battle are not eligible for using in this way. So you have to kind of lose objective tokens and place back onto the board to use this ability. But yeah, it's still interesting. Next thing here is one with one of the keywords, Grievious. Now Grievious stacks with other Grievious. So if you have Grievious from 2 different sources, it stacks just like knockback stacks. So that's pretty interesting, right? So if you have a fighter with a lot of dice, like say like Tooth Dagger, for example, rolling 4, possibly 5 with some card tech, or even more, he has the potential to do a lot of damage. And yeah, other fighters too, obviously, but just an example. Interesting. So charge. Huge change here. So if you have charge, you can't be active again unless every fighter in your warband has a charge token. So this means that you won't have to waste your activations drawing cards or swapping objectives if you're playing elite warbands, or if you just shit out of luck in a game where you are left with one fighter. That's a great change, right? For smaller warbands, this is very welcome, and I really encourage this rule change. And you still can't scythe, you can't do super actions, you can't move. You can only attack and do fighter-specific actions, and guard, I guess, could also work. But it also means that you get to use, like, reactionary stuff, like, so you get to activate them again, and then you could use something like Soundless Step or card draw tech reactions after activating them again, so you can get more mileage out of such cards, right? So let's move on. That's a welcome change. So another change here is in the power step. After a player's activation step, it's time for the player's power step. Players alternate playing a card, delving a feature token, or passing. Starting with the player whose step it is. So they have changed the order back to how it was pre-Herdeep. I'm not sure why, and this is maybe one thing I don't feel like yay about. Because I didn't really like the fact that you could bring a fighter down to 1 wound and then ping him to death. You could still do that during Herdeep and Nethermaze, but at least your opponent had some ability to maybe play heal card or do something about it. So I'm not really a huge fan about this, because I just reprogrammed my head into thinking the power step was in the other way. So changing it back just makes it a bit all over the place for me, but yeah, I'll manage. So another change to the power step is how delve works. So instead of playing a power card, you can delve with the fighter by flipping 1 feature token if a friendly fighter is not staggered. That is quite significant. So if you are staggered, you can't delve. And once you flip up a snare token, you get a stagger token. So that definitely limits how much you can delve with any given fighter. So bear that in mind while playing your games. Just a quick look-see here also to check the boards included in this expansion. So first up we have this gray, green, blue Mist March Tangle. I guess it's the name of this. It has 2 blocked hexes spread out. We have 1 cover hex. On the left side we have 2 starting hexes on the front, and on the other side we have 1, but the others are fairly close by. So this seems like a pretty decent aggro board. It's not that good for defensive warbands, I guess, given that the blocked hexes are fairly spread out and there are no lethal hexes. On the visceral coil, really cool art here with this like muscle fiber thing going on here. With this blood clots and stuff. We have a clump of a triumvirate of a lethal hex, a cover hex, and a blocked hex. Not sure why you would like that, I guess. Could be interesting for a ghost warband, given that lethal hexes aren't a big deal for them and blocked hexes aren't either. But could potentially be bad for someone wanting to come into your territory, so maybe something for like the Briarthorns, I guess. In terms of aggro playability with this board, it's pretty decent. The starting hexes are fairly to the front. It's 2 on the front on the left side and 1 on the other side, but the other ones are pretty close by. And also the starting hexes are fairly tightly together there. On the Stricken Swamp, it's the pick for Gloom warbands, right? We have 2 Gloom hexes here, so like a given pick probably for something like the Shadeborn, right? And the starting hexes don't have any side here that has 2 to the front. It's more of a defensive pick, I would say. On the Moldscape, we have 2 lethal hexes and 1 cover hex, so maybe like something for ethereal type warbands. We don't have 2 starting hexes on the front on either side on this one, so it's not a great aggro pick. So yeah, those are the boards included. Nothing really stands out as being super good, but not also super bad. So interesting, and I love the style here especially. Other than that, there's nothing really huge left, I think. It was a bit saddened to see that there are no Grand Alliance cards in this installment. But this seems typical for Warhammer Underworlds, that they start these concepts that they don't really follow through on, like combos or Hunter Quarry or whatever. They're not really fully developed, and then they like give up on them. So why? I'm not sure. Yeah, but overall, I like the rule changes, the changes to move and charge. I like it a lot. Not sure about the power step over there, and the Grievous stacking. Maybe A bit much, I know. Let's see. But I'm hyped to play. I don't feel discouraged from playing at all. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my copy, right? So without further ado, this has been me rambling about the rules changes. Hope that it made somewhat sense. So without further ado, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. What did you think? What did you like the most about the rule changes? What did you not like at all, maybe? And what warband are you now how hyped about playing, right? Any like old warband that you kind of feel like now I'm getting my chance to really making them shine again, or maybe you are looking to try one of the new warbands, right? So yeah, take care, bye.